Situations and scenarios like this one happen every single day. Yet, so few people know how to navigate it in a manner where it's going to be beneficial for the new home buyer. This is what I'm talking about. Recently, Grandpa just passed away. When Grandpa passed away, he left his estate to the family, as is very common. Part of Grandpa's estate was his home. So Grandpa's grandchild wants to purchase this home that is now owned by the family. However, the grandson doesn't necessarily have all of the money that he would need or be required for down payment. He doesn't have all the money that would be needed or required for closing costs. So what does anyone do? Well, in this scenario, you can actually leverage what is called a gift of equity, and you can leverage that gift of equity so that the grandson doesn't have to come up with his own money for down payment and closing costs, and the grandson can actually qualify to purchase Grandpa's home. Want to know more? I bet you do. Keep tuning in. Check this out. All right, so I am back with my preferred lender's very own Kristi Nowrouzi. She is a mortgage broker out of Orlando, Florida. 20 plus years experience in mortgage and real estate. She has helped over 1,000 families purchase their home. And you had a situation or a scenario where everything I explained earlier happened. Grandpa had passed away.
Yep.
Grandson wanted to own the home and live in the home,
Yes.
right? And move into it.
Yes.
But grandson didn't necessarily have the funds needed for down payment and closing costs.
Right.
Walk us through this. Don't have to use names, but I'm curious, like, where was grandson in his life in terms of like age and occupation? I'm curious, like, how much was the home worth? Did Grandpa owe anything on the mortgage? And how does a gift of equity work, Kristi?
Yeah. So I was introduced by a probate attorney that was representing Grandpa's estate, and just like you had said in the intro, the estate is now with the family. We did have to wait. In the state of Florida, it's treated very differently than some other states, so it is state mandated. But in the state of Florida, we are a probate state. And so the estate had to go through the probate courts, and as soon as the judge blessed the transaction of being able to sell the property, the grandson knew he wanted to buy it. So the executors of the estate is his aunt, my client's aunt and dad, and they wanted to also help him out and give him a great purchase price.
Yeah, because the home wasn't left to the grandson. The home was left to Grandpa's son and daughter, who happened to be the grandson's dad and the grandson's aunt.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so I think that's good for people to know. What was the approximate like age and occupation of the grandson?
Mid-30s. He's in a great career, and
had he owned a home?
No, he was a first-time home buyer.
He was a first-time home buyer.
Yep.
And did Grandpa owe any money on his home?
He did. He had a reverse mortgage. And this happens often with a reverse mortgage. So if anybody has not heard of or doesn't know what a reverse mortgage is, every month that balance owed is actually increasing.
Correct.
Where most of us with mortgages, we're paying it down, so it's decreasing. So time is of the essence because there's more to pay off every single month that you wait. And so as soon as Grandpa passed, the probate attorney had introduced me to our client. We'll call him Mike because that's not his name. So Mike gives me a call. He says, hey, Granddad died. I want to buy the house. And I'd like to structure it in a way where I don't have to come out of pocket because everything really needs to be redone. It was livable. It was safe. It was habitable. But it was also
outdated.
Probably 30 years since.
Yeah, which is very common.
Very common.
With homes that are owned by the boomer generation or even people, that were a part of the greatest generation.
Yes.
You start living on a fixed income and, you just care less about the flooring being brand new and the cabinets being up to date.
And if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Correct, 100%. So this is normal.
Yes.
So what was the home worth approximately?
Approximately $350,000.
So approximately the home's worth $350,000. Grandpa has a lien on the property, which is a mortgage.
Yeah.
Roughly
Like 120.
120.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're sitting there, you're doing the math. You're like, there's easily $230,000 of equity.
Correct.
And did dad and aunt, did they care about getting anything from the sale?
They wanted to make
themselves?
sure that some of the debts were paid off. And so they were going to use some of the equity to remedy some other things. So they were paying off that house. There was a little loan against it. I think he had gotten windows replaced or
Okay.
something, and they had some kind of secondary loan. And they also didn't want to have to come out of pocket at any closing costs on their side.
Yes.
So whether you buy or whether you sell, if you're involved in real estate, you're paying closing costs. And so they wanted their closing costs essentially covered by the sales price. And then also Mike didn't want to come out of pocket with money for closing costs. So his goal was to keep every dime that he had so it could go into the house. The very first thing was we needed a roof. We needed an air conditioner because both of those things were on their very last leg.
Okay.
And then he was going to go
And
in.
a new roof in Florida is about $22,000, and AC is about $8,000. So there's $30,000 between roof and AC
Out the door.
that's going to be out the door. So was it one of those situations, if the purchase price was $350, that did you structure in a manner that Mike is going to buy the home from the estate? Essentially, he's buying it from his dad and his aunt, but he's buying it from the estate for a fair market value, like appraised value of $350,000. He's not getting the home at a discount, because what he is getting is the estate is going to gift him. Was it a 20% down payment, a 10% down payment?
We did even a little bit larger than that.
Wow.
Yeah. So because we had a lot of wiggle room in that case. If let's say the scenario didn't allow for that, as a first-time home buyer, he would have only had to have had 3% down. So it doesn't matter necessarily the equity status that you put
Okay.
down, but for him, we wanted to be able to minimize his payment. So we
Yes.
wanted to have no mortgage insurance, and we had the
Yeah, you're basically
play.
playing with $230,000 of equity.
Right.
Between seller's closing costs and buyer's closing costs, which, just so y'all know, in the state of Florida, combine those two together, sellers are probably 2% of the purchase price, I'm guessing.
yeah without yes
Yeah, so that's about $7,000, and then the buyer's about a little bit more than that. He's probably closer to $10,000.
Yeah.
So there's about $17,000 of closing costs
Yeah.
that's going to come out of this $350.
yes.
But there's also his down payment. And obviously, the more money you put down, the less you have to finance. The less you finance, the lower your payment.
Correct.
So then he puts down, what, an extra 100?
I can't remember the exact number that we did, but here's what makes a gift of equity so special. And it's not available for everybody. If he were buying from anybody else, he would have had to have had at least a 3% down payment. Any down payment, but at least a 3% down payment from his own pocket. And the sellers could, if they chose to, pay his closing costs for him, however they negotiated those terms. When you're buying from a family member, and it's going to be your primary residence, you have what's called a gift of equity. And so that seller, in this case, the executors of the estate, signing on behalf of the estate, sold him the home. Let's say it appraised out at $350. Maybe they sold it to him for $325 or close enough to fair market value. They could have sold it to him for any amount that they wanted to.
That's a good point that I would want people to know. Like, you want to pay fair market value, because fair market value then allows you to have these gifts of equity, the closing costs being paid. If you approached it what I would say more common sense way, which is this: oh, the home's worth $350, but it's my grandpa's old house, and my aunt and my dad are going to hook me up. They're only going to sell it to me for $200. The problem when you do that, you don't access that equity.
Right.
So it's like, no, draft the contract for the highest possible.
Yes.
And then just have the gift of equity backfill.
Yes.
You're still going to own a home that's worth $350, and you only have a mortgage of $200,000 on it. But what you don't want to do is try to write the contract for $200,000.
Right.
Because now you're trying to go to a bank, and the bank's going to say, oh, that's 100% financing.
Correct.
And you're going to be like, no, it's not, because it actually appraised at X.
But they go off of the contract.
But when you work with lenders,
Yep.
yeah, you have to understand, as a lender, we are trained that we derive loan to value based on the lesser of the two, appraised value or purchase price.
Yes.
And I think it's very important for the audience to know, because you have to write the contract the right way.
Right.
If you don't know how to write the contract the right way, don't worry. There are lenders like Kristi all throughout the country. Not many of them, right? There's not. I mean, for every 100, you'll probably get 3 to 7 that actually can navigate a situation like this. But you can tell what a professional you are and how long you've been in the industry. But you would check with that great lender. That great lender would work with you
Yep.
to make sure that you're structuring the transaction to where it's financially the best thing for you.
Correct.
Or for in this case, the best thing for Mike.
Right.
So, okay. So for Mike.
I think we set it up for 325 because we didn't know what it was going to appraise out at. We had an idea, but so we knew it was going to appraise out at least 325. So we sold it at put the contract together at 325, and the title company we went to just helped facilitate that, so they didn't have to go and hire a whole bunch of people or get crazy in involving a lot of different parties. And so we wrote it up for 325. He has a tremendous amount of equity there, and so to your point, it didn't skew that loan to value. We were able to have no mortgage insurance, a really beautiful interest rate because there's this supposed great down payment. Yeah. So it didn't have to have any money out of his pocket. We wrote it up where the sellers or the estate, in this case, covered 3% of his closing costs, which covered all of it. And the only thing that was out of pocket was he had to get an inspection report in order to get an insurance quote.
Okay.
And so I think he paid $175 or something for an inspection report so we could get insurance nailed down, which he's going to replace that insurance as soon as that roof is replaced because he'll be able to get a more cost-effective insurance policy. So outside of that inspection report, everything else was taken care of.
Yeah, like how amazing for Mike that he got to take over Grandpa's home.
Yes.
But at the same time, he didn't put his his dad or his aunt in a tight position because you structure it in a manner that they got enough money from the transaction to cover the other things they needed to cover with their father passing. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to come out of pocket to cover their side of closing cost. They didn't have to come out of pocket to cover his closing cost. And they're able to earmark a certain percentage of that equity to give him as a gift, which then gave him a great interest rate, a low monthly payment, and he gets to keep his cash so that he can modify, update, and upgrade this home. Keep it in the family.
Yes. And some of the things we talked about was, does he need to build in a little extra in that purchase price and get a roof covered in that?
Oh, that could have been something you all did. We call those escrow holdbacks for repairs.
A lot of different ways we could have approached it. He already had his roofer. He already had the money earmarked for it, and he was good with going this way because he wanted the lowest loan amount possible so he could pay it off in an expedited manner.
I absolutely love this, Kristi. Look, if you're tuning into this particular show, you're probably thinking this sounds like maybe a situation that you're in or a situation that you may enter in at some point. Or, maybe it's a situation that you have your own client or your own friend or family member who's dealing with something like this, and they didn't know that gifts of equity were a thing, that this type of financing was even possible. And it's beyond possible. It's also super advantageous. If y'all have questions regarding buying your first home, leveraging gift funds for things like down payment and closing costs, reach out to us. You can comment below on the YouTube, and my team and I will respond. You can also reach out to Kristi directly. If they want to do so, Kristi, how would they do that?
Yeah, I'll give my phone number. It's 407-590-4682.
And if they want to follow you on social, how do they find you?
Kristi Nowrouzi.
Spell Nowrouzi for us.
Nowrouzi.
And it's Kristi with a K. I'm Dustin Owen, and you just tuned in to Talk Mortgage to Me. If you enjoy content like this, do yourself and do us a favor and make sure you click that subscribe button. That way you can get notified every time we drop a new piece of content. And if you have questions, you can reach out to Kristi or you can comment below. That's all the time we have for you today, but we do look forward to catching you on upcoming episodes.